Hi Avery and Cameron. Hope you're excited to get started with this. I am, and I'm bent down here to talk to you because I've got my camera set up where in a minute you're going to be able to see what I'm doing instead of looking at my face. But anyway, I just wanted to get on here and show you just a very few quick things. And then when we get together individually, we'll go into depth about it. So this is just a little something to get you comfortable with, mainly how to hold your hook and your yarn, because that is probably the hardest thing that you're going to learn in learning to crochet. So first of all, I'm going to tell you about supplies that I have. And last night I actually made these two cute little bags for you guys. Cameron, yours is a dark blue. Avery, this is yours. And they're nothing special. I just zipped them up real quick so we'd have something to store your yarn and stuff in. Avery, this is yours. And inside here, I have three skeins of yarn. This is very basic yarn because I think we need to start with the very basic stuff and learn everything in basic terms. And then if you learn the craft and you like it and you decide to stick with it, then we'll advance into a few different materials, different hooks, and even some different techniques when you're crocheting. Now, inside here is another little zipper pouch, and when you open that up, inside, I just did this so you don't lose all your stuff, you'll have a pair of scissors. You'll have a little plastic bag that's got some stitch markers, and we'll go into that a little more in depth later. They look like a little plastic safety pin, and this is going to help you get started. And also there's a little plastic needle in there with a really big eye so that yarn can go through it. That will be very useful too. And then inside you will both have a hook, and this hook is quite a large hook. It's called the size is an I9, and it's a 5.5 millimeter. So this is about a middle of the road kind of hook. And the good thing about using this size, and this is the size that's recommended for this kind of yarn, but because it's a little bit bigger, it makes your project go a little quicker. The stitches will be a little bigger, and you won't get as bored, I guess. But there will be times that you fall back to a smaller hook, and we even get into larger hooks when we're making the animals and things. So this will be your hook, and also it's a metal hook. It's very basic. It's what we might call the old-timey kind of hook, but again, I think this is what you need to learn on. And they've come out with a lot of newer kind of hooks now, and when you get used to it and decide to stay in it, then we'll talk about those and explore that. So that's what's going to be in your bag when you pick it up. Now, so that's about supplies, and really that's all you need to be a good crocheter. And there's lots of other things you can have. Like here's my little fancy organizer bag that I use to keep up with my stuff, and I've just got it crammed full of things. In fact, I get so many papers in here where I take notes, I just have to sit down and clean it out. So you will eventually collect more and more stuff, and maybe some clutter. Okay, so next let's talk about your space where you do your work. You know, you need to be sitting down somewhere that you're comfortable, and you got a little space around you, because I know what I do is I end up like, I call it building a nest around me. And I'll have my colors of yarn on one side and my scissors and things on the other side, and maybe a little table in front of me, and I just call it building my nest. And everybody knows stay out of my nest. I usually have a blanket there that I cover up with. Okay, so also this is the project that you guys will be starting with, and it too is a very basic project. It's a scarf, and you can make your scarf as long as you want it to be. You just stop when it's as long as you like it. And this is, I decided to do this because You're going to learn all of the very basic stitches in this, and it'll have plenty of time for you to practice each stitch. And what I have is 2 rows of each stitch. For instance, 2 rows of single crochet, 2 rows of half double crochet, 2 rows of double crochet, and then you start back over. So throughout this whole thing, you're going to be practicing on 3 different stitches over and over and over. Also keeps you from getting bored. But there's a few other techniques in here that you'll learn other than just stitches. You're going to learn how to change colors. So I put plenty of that in there. You're going to learn how to put a border around your scarf. That's why it's got a blue border around it. And on this one, we're going to learn to put fringe on the end of the scarf. And, you know, that's not necessary, but there's all kinds of options. So that's what that's about. And I've got the colors, I think, that you guys picked out in your bag. Okay. Now, I'm going to come around to the camera where you can be sort of looking over my shoulder. And I know this camera angle's weird, but I don't want you to be looking at me. I want you to be looking at what I'm doing. And so I'm going to come around here. And let me see, I might have to move my camera down a bit. Let's see. Might have to move it a couple times. Now, I am not going to show you all a lot today because the concentration here is how to hold the needle. I think you're both right-handed, so you're going to hold your hook in your right hand and your yarn in your left. So both of your hands are very busy, okay? Angle down a little bit more. Okay, I think that's good. Now, the first thing you do is you have to somehow get this yarn hooked onto your hook. So we do that with a slip knot, and you may have a way to make a slip knot. Your mom and dad may have a way, but this is the way I do it, and I will show you, but there are many different ways to make a slip knot. I put it around my 2 fingers. I use 2 fingers, and I wrap this yarn around 2 fingers, and when I come over the second time, I cross it over the top of that. And then I go up, let me see if I can get this here. I go up under this one on the bottom and get a hold of the one on the top and pull it through and just let this finger out, okay? And see that's starting up on the hook. And then I just let go of this and get a hold of these 2 tails and pull them. Well, actually, I get that on there, then get a hold of the yarn that's attached to the ball, not your little end string. Get a hold of this piece and pull, and it'll tighten up on your needle. So now let's talk about tension. You don't want this to be extremely tight because it's hard to crochet that way. And some people tend to crochet tightly, and some people tend to crochet loosely. I've always been one of those people that crochets tightly, but I am constantly, even after all these years, I'm constantly telling myself to loosen up. So you need to find that middle of the road balance. But right here is going to be the hardest thing for you to learn, is how to hold this yarn in your hand while working with this needle and letting the yarn flow through your hand. Okay, you've got to hold on to it enough to have tension, but enough to let it slide through. And also, this hand with the hook has to hold on over here kind of to this tail or the bottom of your work as it grows larger. So if you will put it in your hand like this, hold this here. See, my loose tail is over here at my hook, and I'm just putting that in my hand. All right, when I close my hand up on it, I will stick this finger up in the air, and this is going to wrap around my finger. And that's just the way I hold mine. Other people do it different ways. That's just my way, okay? And sometimes I'll wrap it around too. But you will learn your way of holding this thread, and it's going to take a lot of trial and error, and you're going to get very frustrated because it doesn't feel right or your work doesn't look right. The good thing about crochet, if it doesn't look right, just rip it out and start over. So I'm going to do just a few stitches for you to see how this flows through my hand. And sometimes I don't even know how I do this, okay? So first of all, and I'm holding on to this right here, I'm going to chain. This is a chain stitch, and this is how every project begins. Not every project. If you're doing something round, it's a little different. We'll cover that later, but right now we're talking about projects that are worked in long rows, one row after another. So as of right now, I'm taking these. See, I've got this around this finger, but I'm taking my middle finger and my thumb, if I can put them together, and hold on to this, where this knot's at over here, okay? Now, getting all that lined up is hard. And this hook, I'm going to hook this yarn and pull it through that loop, okay? That looks so easy, but sometimes in the beginning it is so hard. And so you're going to keep doing that. So you got one, all right? Remember, I'm holding on to this with my thumb. Again, I'm just going to take my hook. Hope you can see this. Take this hook, grab this yarn over here at my pointer finger, and pull it through that loop, okay? And keep doing that. Grab the yarn and pull it through. Grab the yarn and pull it through. And after you get a few stitches, it gets so long you can't do that. So you've got to let go down here and move up near your needle. Okay? And then you're right back where you started from. Grab the yarn and pull it through. Grab the yarn and pull it through. Grab the yarn and pull it through. About 3 stitches is all I can do before I have to move these fingers up and get a new grip. Okay? So, this is what they call yarning over, yarning under, and we'll talk more about that later. But grab that thread, pull it through. Grab that thread, pull it through. Okay, now I've put on just a few stitches. Okay, and if you look at these stitches, pull this up here and look at it. You've got to learn the anatomy of a stitch, what a stitch looks like. If you hold it up and look at it, it almost looks like a braid. Looks like hair that's been braided. Or you might call them V's on top of each other. Each one of those little V's or each one of those little loops is a stitch. So I'm going to show you one more thing, which is a single crochet. And if you don't get to practice this, don't you worry about it. Holding your yarn and doing a chain is the most important for you right now. Okay? I'm just going to show you how to do a single crochet. That's the name of the stitch. And then we'll be done. But, okay, so I did all those chains. Now, if you look at this, what I have to do to continue my work and make it like the scarf is I have to go down each one of these stitches and put another stitch into it. It's going to build up on itself in layers. So our next row, what we do is, if you look at them, the very first stitch is the one that you just came out of. Don't worry about that stitch. Go to the next one. You're going to go to the second little loop, little V, and just stick your needle down in the top of that. I don't know if I can get up here really close. Let me see if I can zoom my camera in just a tad. If it will let me. It won't. So let me just try to get up here closer. See where I can hold my hands. Wow, this is weird. Okay. I'm going to try to not look at the camera and just do this. And I hope you can see it. Okay, so here's what you have. I'm going to stick my needle in that second little stitch. You're just going to go on through one string of it. And when you get it in there, you're going to get a hold of this thread again and pull it through that loop. Okay? So when you do that, now you have 2 loops on your hook. And you're going to get a hold of this yarn and pull it through both of those
loops. That's a single crochet. So that's your first single crochet stitch. You're going to do that same thing across all of those chains. All right, so I'm going to find my next stitch, which would be the next little loop over to the side. Go in that hole, and see, then you've got one string up there. Pull this through that loop, and you have two on your hook. Grab your yarn, pull it through both loops. Now, that's enough, I think, that you can get what a single crochet is or what it means. And you might have to back this up and look at it, back it up and look at it, whatever you need to do. So I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to single crochet all the way across this little chain that I have, okay? And what I want you to watch how I'm going in with my hook, but I also want you to watch this hand. I want you to watch how the yarn is moving through my hand. That's what's hard to learn. And so also you'll learn to do it in an even stroke, like not too loose and not too tight. In the beginning, you'll have some that's real tight and some that's real loose, and your work will look really wonky. That's okay. I'm going in the next loop, and I'm just going to be quiet, and I hope you can see this. So I'm holding the yarn and I'm holding it, but I'm letting it slide. Sometimes it helps if you'll grab this little tail and just pull it out a little bit. Like pull the whole thing out. Makes you see it. And you see how the stitches they're thicker now. Okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to show you how to turn and go back the other way. And then I will be done for now. And there's two ways to hold a hook, by the way. And you will learn your way. This is called the knife hold. And then there's something called the pencil hold. So, my whole life I held my hook like the pencil hold, just like a pencil. Okay, there's a little more wrist movement in it that way. I broke my wrist and I wasn't able to do that as smoothly anymore, so I had to switch to the knife hold. And once I did, I was really glad I did, because I feel like for some reason I have just a little more control over things in this knife hold. It's like my fingers over here are more free to do things if I have to reach down and get a hold of things. So I'm really glad that I did that, but I was forced to do it. I'm really not sure you all can see what I'm doing on this camera, but I'm coming up on the very last one. All right, I've got one more stitch. So when I go in that one, come through and go through both. So now I have done a whole little row of single crochets, and maybe you can see that it's really thick now. And this is what I can't even get to my camera. This is what the top looks like, so you can see those little V's down through there. Now, I want to show you too, let me see. Avery, I'm in your bag, and I'm going to get out one of your stitch markers and show you what we use these for. Because when you get to the end of a row, it's a really good idea. I still do this today on most things, but it's a really good habit to get into, to take this. It just looks like a little safety pin. And to put this in your last stitch, I just put it in the top of it here, so that when you come back around, well, you'll know which one it is. And actually, I'm going to take that out right now, because it's actually the first stitch around that we'll do. So when you get to the end of your row here, now you learned a chain, you learned a single crochet. Now at the end of your row, you're going to do a chain one. Remember, that was just reaching over and getting it and pulling it through. That's a chain one. Now you're going to turn this thing, this. I'm going to have to get a hold of my yarn now. And now we're going to go back down this work this way. We'll put another row in. So basically we're working down the other side of it. So now if you look at your stitch, and I'm going to try to get up here close, and maybe you can see what I'm doing, maybe not. I may not figure this out till we get together, but a stitch has 2 strings on it. If you look at it from the top, it looks like a V. It's got 2 strings on it. So when we do a stitch, we go through after that first row. That's called your foundation row. Things get a little different after that, and things get easier after that. You're going to go in both of those stitch, both sides of the stitch. So I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to do a single crochet. Okay, there's that chain. We skip it. I'm going this first stitch, but I have to go like from the front and poke it through those 2 little strings. Let me try to hold it up here. I don't think my camera's showing this very well. Okay, and then pull that through, and you've got your 2 strings on here again. Pull your yarn through both of those. Now you've made your first single crochet in your second row. Okay, this first chain thing is that's your foundation row. We did this round 1. Now we're on round 2. And again, I'm going to be quiet and go over through here. I'm going to do this row, and then we're going to be done. Okay? See, I'm holding my yarn back here behind my work because your yarn comes from the back. Okay? In through the front of that stitch, through both pieces of it. You're going from front to back all the way through. Pull the yarn through so that you have 2 loops on your hook. Pull the yarn through both the loops. Hopefully your mom's watching this too, and maybe between the 2 of you, you can see figure out what I'm saying and what I'm doing. If not, when I get back today, I've got a doctor's appointment. When I come back, I'm going to send a message and see how it's going. And if I need to, we'll get on here together and look at it, or we may get together and just kind of stay apart because I've been sick and I don't want you to get sick. I know you're getting ready to go back to school. I'm going to be quiet. Our project is growing, and I forgot to put that stitch marker in, but had I put that stitch marker in when I made that very first stitch, I would have, sorry, my dog's barking. I would have put this stitch marker in there. I'm coming up, and then I would know when my last row's coming. This would have one on it. Last stitch, go in, out, go through both loops. Again, you're at the end of that row. When you're doing a single crochet, you chain 1 and you turn. Okay, now I will put a stitch marker right here in that first stitch after I make the first stitch on this next row, and it would look like this. So when I work down through here and I work this row, when I get down to the stitch marker, I know exactly which stitch is my last stitch, because sometimes it gets confusing. So I will run my needle through here and do my very first stitch of row 3. Then I will get another stitch marker and put it in that stitch. So then I have my first and my last stitches marked, and I just keep marking those as I go. I'm going to do this row, and we're going to be done. Again, I have to let my yarn flow through this left hand. I'm always straightening it out. Straight in from front to back. Pull through. Whoops, I messed up. Straight in from front to back. Pull it through. 2 loops. Pull it through both loops. When you get to that last stitch, I know this is the last one because my marker's there. I'm going to take the marker out. And then work in that stitch. It was a little tight. Chain one and turn it. I'm going to go down this side after I make my first stitch, put my marker back in. Okay? So there's always a marker on the first and last stitch. That's it. Let me work this one row real quick and you just watch me do it. And I'm going to turn the camera off. Or you can go ahead and turn the camera off if you want to. When I get back from my appointment, I'm going to send a message to your mom, see if you've had a chance to try it, if they've got your supplies. All I want you to do is start feeling this stuff. You know what I call this? Petting the yarn. Just like an animal. You're going to pet your supplies. So, okay. I didn't do the last stitch because my marker's there, but that's what it will look like. So you see it grows pretty quickly, and that's how I did your scarf. So what I did exactly the same thing, and I did 2 rows of these single crochets. Then I did 2 rows of a different stitch and 2 rows of a different stitch. Then I started back over and I did 2 rows of singles. So that's what I did, those 3 stitches all the way through that whole scarf. So this is not a hard project. Okay, good luck. Pat your yarn, play with your hook, get used to your supplies. If you make a mistake, look, just pull it out. Just pull on the yarn. You can go back to where your mistake was, or you can pull the whole thing out. Because you started with a slip knot, when you get done pulling that out, you don't even have a knot that comes right out. Okay? Alright, good luck, and I will talk to you later.